I was standing in the kitchen doing dishes when my mother walked in with the eviction notice. She didn't say hello, didn't ask about my day, just put the paper on the counter next to me and said, "We have 30 days to be out. I can't afford rent and you anymore. You're 16 now, old enough to figure it out. You're on your own." I looked at her, at the woman who'd raised me alone after my father left, at the exhaustion in her eyes, at the defeat in her shoulders. "What do you mean I'm on your own?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "I mean I can't do this anymore. I'm moving in with my sister in Ohio. There's no room for you. You'll need to find somewhere else to go." She walked out of the kitchen. That was it. No discussion, no options. Just you're on your own. That was 14 years ago. Last month, I called her from the driveway of a house in the suburbs. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, the wraparound porch she'd always talked about wanting. The garden space, the quiet neighborhood, her dream home, the one she'd shown me pictures of when I was a kid. When we'd drive through nice neighborhoods and she'd point out houses she liked. Before everything fell apart. Before the eviction. Before she told me I was on my own. "Mom, I need you to come to this address," I said. Gave her the location. She asked why. I said it was important. She sighed, but agreed. 30 minutes later, she pulled up. I was waiting on the porch. She got out of her car looking confused and annoyed. "What is this? Why did you drag me out here?" I held up the deed. Her name on it. "It's yours," I said. "Paid in full. Your dream home." I handed her the papers and the keys, watched her face change as she realized what she was holding. "I don't understand," she said. "You told me at 16 I was on my own," I said. "So I figured it out, built a life, made money, and decided that even though you gave up on me, I wouldn't give up on you." She started crying. I didn't. Let me take you back, because this story isn't about revenge. It's about becoming the person who could give someone everything, even after they gave you nothing. If you've ever been abandoned by a parent who was supposed to protect you, if you've ever built something from nothing because you had no choice, if you've ever been generous to someone who wasn't generous to you, this story is for you. My mother raised me alone. My father left when I was 3. Just walked out one day and never came back. No child support, no phone calls, nothing. My mother worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and housed. Waitress during the day. Cleaning offices at night. I barely saw her. When I did, she was exhausted, angry at the world, angry at my father, sometimes angry at me for existing and making her life harder. I learned early to stay quiet, to not need things, to take care of myself, made my own lunches for school, did my own laundry, kept my head down. Money was always tight. We moved a lot. Cheaper apartments, worse neighborhoods. Every few years we'd get behind on rent and have to leave. I changed schools 5 times between ages 8 and 15. Made no real friends because what was the point? We'd just move again. My mother would promise each time that this place would be different, that we'd stay, that things would get better. They never did. By the time I was 15, we were in a 1-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. I slept on the couch. She had the bedroom. We had no car. Took the bus everywhere. I worked part-time at a grocery store bagging groceries. Gave her most of what I made for rent, kept $20 a week for myself. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The eviction notice came right after my 16th birthday. We were 3 months behind on rent. The landlord had been patient, but his patience ran out. 30 days to leave. My mother sat at the kitchen table for hours staring at the notice. I thought she was trying to figure out a solution. Turns out she was just deciding how to tell me she was leaving. Her sister Joan in Ohio had offered to let her stay rent-free until she got back on her feet. My mother said yes, didn't mention me. When Joan asked about me, my mother said I'd stay with a friend. Joan didn't push. The plan was set. My mother was leaving. I wasn't invited. When she told me I was on my own, I didn't cry. Didn't argue. Just asked where I was supposed to go. She said I'd figure it out. I was resourceful. I'd always been resourceful. She was leaving in 2 weeks. I had that long to find something. She packed her things, sold most of our furniture for gas money, kept asking if I'd found a place yet. I lied. Said yes. A friend's family was taking me in. She looked relieved. Didn't ask which friend or for details. Just accepted it because it made her leaving easier. The day she left, she hugged me at the bus station. Said she was sorry. That she'd tried her best. That life had been hard. That maybe when she got on her feet, I could visit. I nodded. Said okay. Watched her bus pull away. Then I walked back to the empty apartment we'd been evicted from. The landlord had changed the locks, but the superintendent let me in to grab my things. I had a backpack with clothes, $50 in cash, a cell phone that would work for another month, and nobody. I was 16 and completely alone. I slept in the grocery store break room the first 2 nights. Clocked out at closing time but hid in the bathroom until everyone left. Waited in a stall with my feet up so nobody would see me if they checked. Listened to the lights go off section by section, the final manager doing their walkthrough, the alarm being set. Then silence. I'd come out after an hour. Make sure the coast was clear. The break room had a ratty couch that smelled like old coffee and cigarettes. I'd lie there in the dark listening to the hum of refrigeration units, trying not to think about the fact that I was homeless, that I was 16 and completely alone, that my mother was on a bus to Ohio and didn't care where I slept. I'd set an alarm for 5 a.m., wake up before the morning shift arrived, wash my face in the bathroom, change my shirt, walk out with the first group of employees arriving. Act like I'd just gotten there for my shift. The first night, I barely slept. Every sound made me think someone was coming, that I'd get caught. The second night, I was so exhausted I passed out within minutes. The third night, the night manager Marcus caught me. I thought he'd call the cops. Thought this was it. 16 and about to have a record. Instead, he asked what was going on. I told him. All of it. The eviction. My mother leaving. Having nowhere to go. Being completely alone. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Just looked at me with this expression I couldn't read. Then he said his name was Marcus. That he had a spare room. That his... Kept working at the grocery store. Enrolled myself in the local high school for my junior year. Walked 40 minutes each way because I couldn't afford bus fare and needed to save everything. Marcus didn't charge me rent for the first 3 months. Said, get on your feet first. By month 4, I was paying him $200 a month. Working 30 hours a week at the store. Going to school full-time. Sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. It was brutal, but I was surviving. More than surviving. I was proving I could do this alone. My mother called twice in the first year. Short calls. Asking how I was. Telling me she was struggling in Ohio. That Joan's house was cramped. That she missed me. But never saying come here. Never offering help. Just venting about her life while asking nothing about mine. I kept my answers short. Said I was fine. School was good. Work was good. Everything was fine. She sounded relieved. Guilty maybe, but relieved. She'd made the right choice leaving me. I was fine. After that first year, the calls stopped. I didn't call her, just let the silence grow. I graduated high school at 17. Top of my class. Had worked my ass off to keep my grades up while working and surviving. Got accepted to community college with a partial scholarship. Kept living with Marcus. Kept working at the grocery store. Started taking business classes. Learned about accounting, marketing, finance. Found I was good at numbers. Really good. By 19, I was assistant manager at the store, making $30,000 a year. Moved into my own apartment. Thanked Marcus for everything. He said I'd earned it. That I was the most determined person he'd ever met. At 20, I transferred to a state university. Kept working. Took out loans for tuition. Got an internship at an accounting firm. Learned how corporate finance worked, how businesses grew, how money moved. Graduated at 22 with a finance degree and a job offer at the firm. $48,000 a year. Real money. The kind I'd never imagined having. I rented a one-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. Bought furniture, had my own space. Built a life that was stable, safe, mine. My mother called when I was 23. First time in 4 years. Said Joan had kicked her out. That she was back in our old city. Living in a women's shelter. Could she borrow money? I asked how much. She said $2,000 for an apartment deposit and first month's rent. I wired her $1,000. Said that's what I could afford. She said thank you and hung up. Didn't ask about my life. My job. Nothing. I didn't hear from her again for 2 years. I kept climbing. Got promoted at the firm. Senior analyst at 25, $65,000 a year. Started investing aggressively. Saved 50% of every paycheck. Lived below my means. Built wealth quietly. By 27, I was making $85,000 as a financial manager. Had $40,000 in savings and investments. By 28, I was making $110,000. Had $70,000 saved. I was good at my job. Really good. Companies wanted me. I could write my own ticket. At 29, my mother called again. She'd gotten my number from someone. Didn't say who. Said she was doing better. Working at a diner. Had a studio apartment. Was proud of herself. Asked how I was doing. I said fine. She asked if I was still at that grocery store. I said no. Didn't elaborate. She talked about her life for 20 minutes. Her apartment was small, but it was hers. Her job was hard, but stable. She was getting by. She said she wished things had been different. That she was sorry for how things happened. That she'd done her best at the time. I said I understood. We hung up. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just nothing. But something about that call stuck with me. Her talking about her small apartment, about getting by, about wishing things were different. I started thinking about the houses she used to show me when I was a kid, before everything fell apart. We'd drive through nice neighborhoods and she'd point out houses with gardens and porches. She'd say someday she'd have a house like that. Someday when things got better. Someday never came. She ended up in a studio apartment at 52, getting by. That was her ceiling. But it didn't have to be. I started looking at houses. Not for me. For her. 3 bedrooms. 2 bathrooms. Wraparound porch. Garden space. Quiet neighborhood. Safe. The kind of place she'd pointed at 20 years ago. I found one for $240,000. It needed some work, but it was solid. In a good area. The kind of place someone could retire in, be comfortable in. I made an offer. It was accepted. I paid cash, from savings and a chunk from selling some investments. I had the deed put in her name, hired contractors to fix it up. Paint, new appliances, landscaping. Made it perfect. Took 3 months. Cost another $30,000 in repairs. I didn't tell her. Didn't tell anyone. Just did it. When it was ready, I called her, said I needed to see her, that it was important. She sounded nervous, thought something was wrong. Maybe I was sick. Maybe I was in trouble. I gave her the address, told her to meet me there at 2 p.m. on Saturday. She asked why. What was at this address? I said she'd see. That she needed to trust me. She agreed reluctantly. On Saturday, I got there early, walked through the house one more time, made sure everything was perfect. The kitchen gleaming, the bedrooms clean and ready, the garden freshly mulched. Then I waited on the porch, watched cars go by. Quiet neighborhood. Kids on bikes. Families walking dogs. The kind of place she'd pointed at when I was 8, when we'd drive through areas we couldn't afford and she'd say someday. This was that someday. Just 30 years later, and I was the one making it happen. She pulled up at 2:15, late as always, in an old Honda Civic with a dented bumper. Parked at the curb, got out slowly, looking around confused and suspicious. Saw me on the porch and frowned. "What is this?" she asked. Walking up the path. Her voice had that edge it always got when she was uncomfortable. Defensive. "Why did you drag me out here on a Saturday?" I stood up, held up the deed, her name typed clearly on the official document, pointed to the house behind me. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, wraparound porch. Everything she'd ever described. "It's yours," I said. "I bought it for you. Paid in full. Fixed it up. Your dream home." She stopped walking, stood at the bottom of the porch steps, stared at the paper in my hand like it was in a foreign language. "What are you talking about?" Her voice smaller now, uncertain. "You used to point at houses like this," I said. "When I was a kid. Said someday you'd have one. I decided today is someday." I handed her the deed and keys. She stood there holding them, looking between me and the house. "I don't understand. Where did you get?" "I'm a financial manager at a corporate firm," I said. "I make a good living. I've been saving and investing for 12 years, since you left me, since you told me I was on my own. I figured it out. Built a career, made money, and decided that even though you gave up on me, I wouldn't give up on you." She started crying. "I can't accept this," she said. "It's already done," I said. "The deed is in your name. It's yours. Free and clear. No mortgage, no strings. Just a place to live for the rest of your life." She sat down on the porch steps, sobbing now. "I was awful to you," she said. "I abandoned you when you needed me most." "Yeah," I said. "You did. And you bought me a house?" "I did." "Why?" she asked, looking up at me, tears streaming down her face. I sat down next to her. "Because you were drowning. You made a choice based on survival. It was the wrong choice, but I understand it. You didn't have the tools to handle what life threw at you. I do. I built those tools because I had to. And now I'm using them to give you something you couldn't give yourself." She cried harder. I didn't comfort her. Just sat there. Finally, she said, "I don't deserve this." "Probably not," I agreed. "But I'm giving it to you anyway. Because I can. Because you're my mother. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather be someone who gives than someone who withholds." Even when she grabbed my hand. "Will you come inside? See the house?" I hesitated, then nodded. We walked through together. She cried in every room, touched the walls like she couldn't believe they were real, said it was more than she'd ever dreamed of, better than the pictures from 20 years ago. I showed her the garden space. She said she'd plant tomatoes, maybe some flowers. I said that sounded nice. We sat on the back porch. She asked about my life. Really asked. Not just surface questions. I told her. About Marcus saving me. About working through high school and college. About building a career. About becoming someone she'd never imagined I'd be. She listened. Really listened. Said she was proud. That she was sorry. That she wished she'd been stronger. I said I knew. That it was okay. That I'd turned out fine. Better than fine. Before I left, she asked if we could try to have a relationship. A real one. Not just occasional phone calls. I said maybe. That I'd need time. That this gift didn't erase what happened. That giving her a house didn't fix 16-year-old me sleeping in a grocery store break room. She nodded. Said she understood. Said she'd wait. However long I needed. I drove away. Looked in the rearview mirror. She was standing on the porch of her dream home. The one I'd given her. The one she hadn't earned but received anyway. Because I'd decided to be generous even when generosity wasn't deserved. It's been 6 months. We talk once a week now. Short calls. She updates me on the house, the garden, the neighbors. I tell her about work, about my life. It's not deep. We're not close. But it's something. More than we've ever had. She asks if I'll come for Thanksgiving. I say maybe. I'm not ready for that yet. She says, okay, that she'll wait, that she's grateful, that she's sorry. I know she means it. I also know sorry doesn't give me back those years. Doesn't erase the fear and loneliness and desperation of being 16 and alone. I'm 30 now, make $140,000 a year, have $120,000 in savings and investments even after the house, own my own condo, drive a decent car, have friends, a life. Built everything from nothing because I had to. Because when I was 16 and needed help, the person who was supposed to help me said I was on my own. I learned. I survived. I thrived. And then I turned around and gave that person everything she'd never been able to give herself. Not because she deserved it, but because I could. Because I wanted to be better than my worst moments. Better than her worst moment. Do I regret buying her the house? No. Some people say I'm too generous, that she abandoned me and doesn't deserve such kindness. They're not wrong. She doesn't deserve it. But this isn't about what she deserves. It's about who I am. I'm someone who builds, who solves problems, who gives when I can because I know what it's like to have nothing. She gave me nothing when I needed everything. I gave her everything when she had nothing. We're not even. We'll never be even. But I'm okay with that. Because I didn't do it to settle a score. I did it because I could. Because I wanted to. Because being generous to someone who wasn't generous to you is its own kind of power. If you've ever been told you're on your own when you were too young to be, this is for you. If you've ever built a life from nothing because nobody helped you, this is for you. If you've ever been generous to someone who didn't deserve it because you wanted to be better than your circumstances, this is for you. You don't owe anyone forgiveness. You don't owe anyone generosity. But sometimes giving anyway, on your own terms, is the most powerful thing you can do. Not because they earned it, but because you're capable of it. And that's its own kind of freedom. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been generous to someone who wasn't there for you? Do you regret it or does it feel right? I read every story. And if you want more stories about people who succeeded against the odds and chose kindness anyway, subscribe. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is give when you don't have to, when it's not deserved. When it's purely because you decided to be the person you wish you'd had.